Hello, America. I'm Mark Levin. This is Life, Liberty, and Levin. We have two great guests, two buddies. By the way, I just noticed, two Italianos.
Yeah, you look at that.
How about that? Dan Bongino.
Good to see you, brother.
How are you? Joe DiGenova. It's an honor.
Mark.
For people who, for some reason, don't know who you are, let me just briefly say, Joe, you were a wonderful United States attorney for the District of Columbia under a great president. From 1983 to 1988 under Ronald Reagan, you received your undergraduate degree from the University of Cincinnati, your law degree from Georgetown. You later served as an independent counsel, investigating the 1992 pre-election search of then-candidate Bill Clinton's passport file. Did that go on for 8 years, by the way? I'm just curious.
No.
What was it, 6 months or something like that?
We cleared everybody.
You did your job and you ended it. Dan Bongino.
Yes, sir.
Attended the City University of New York. You earned both a bachelor's and master's degree in psychology. Penn State University, you earned a master's of business administration. You worked with the New York City Police Department for 4 years, from 95 to 99. You joined the Secret Service in 99 as a special agent. And you eventually protected the president, as I recall.
Yeah, that was fun. Miss it sometimes.
All right, we're here on very serious business. Very, very serious business, so I wanted two very smart, serious people with me. And I want to start the program this way. I have before me an October 16, 2000 memorandum for the Attorney General of the United States. A Democrat Attorney General, a Democrat Department of Justice, the Office of Legal Counsel, which, as you guys know, is the office that passes on constitutional issues for the United States government. And they're also looking at a 1973 memorandum during the Nixon administration, same office. This is what they say in the opening paragraph. In 1973, the Department of Justice concluded that the indictment or criminal prosecution of a sitting president would impermissibly undermine the capacity of the executive branch to perform its constitutionally assigned functions. We've been asked to summarize and review the analysis provided in support of that conclusion and to consider whether any subsequent developments in the law lead us today to reconsider and modify or disavow that determination. We believe that that conclusion, reached by the department in 1973, still represents the best interpretation of the Constitution. Now, here's some of what they say, then I want your significant input. They say, among other things, that the burdens imposed on a sitting president by the initiation of criminal proceedings, whether for official or unofficial wrongdoing, must be assessed in light of the court's long recognition of the unique position in the constitutional scheme that the office occupies. Given the unique powers granted to and obligations imposed upon the president, we think it clear that a sitting president may not constitutionally be imprisoned. And they go on and raise other issues. An investigation, the time it takes for a president, undermining a president's credibility, not just at home, but abroad, and all these issues that affect the function of an Article II President of the United States. So my first question is, if it is the position of the Department of Justice, unchanged to my knowledge, this memoranda have not been withdrawn, that a sitting president cannot be indicted, then what is this talk about subpoenaing a president of the United States to appear before a grand jury to answer endless questions about his conduct, not just before he was president, but when he is president? Joe DiGenova.
I don't think there's any question that the Mueller investigation, as it sits now, is illegitimate. The appointment by Rosenstein of Mueller did not name a crime that was being investigated. It named nothing. This was a way for the department under Rosenstein to avoid responsibility for conducting an inquiry. That said, it is quite obvious that any imposition on the president at this point does many, many bad things to the country and to the functions of the President of the United States. Article 2 vests in the President all executive power. He is the unitary authority of the executive branch. The President cannot be indicted. And so with no crime having been asserted in the appointment of the special counsel, how can he constitutionally investigate no crime? And it is fairly obvious, since the president is determined to be no target in the investigation, that all he wants to do is question the president. He will waste the president's time, but more importantly, he will waste the country's time. And it is an incredible burden on the president's exercise of his duties. I think he is illegitimate, and I think the president should fight to the very end any subpoena issued by the special counsel. It will be illegitimate ab initio.
Dan Bongino, do you think the purpose really is to lay out an impeachment case if the Democrats take over the House of Representatives? Is that the reason why these 49 very broad areas, questions that were apparently put together by the Trump team but represent what Mueller and his team are focused on? Do you think that's what's going on here?
I do, Mark. I think it's twofold. I think they are laying out grounds for impeachment. I think they would lose that in the Senate, even if the Democrats take back the Senate, even by wide margins. I think in red states, this is an embarrassing case. I think Joe is right. This has been a witch hunt from the start. But I think the second thing that's going on here, and I've been clear on this from the start, and I'd love to get your input on this as well. The people Mueller hired were very selectively chosen for the witch hunt. Now, Andy Weissman, Enron prosecutor, who we know from public emails, has an extreme dislike for Donald Trump. He's Mueller's pit bull, number one. A couple of the other people he hires are fascinating. He hires Jeannie Rhee. Jeannie Rhee, who represented people in the Clinton sphere. He hires, as another one of his bulldogs, Aaron Zebley. Aaron Zebley, who represented who? Justin Cooper, one of the Clinton aides who actually admits in a proceeding to smashing some of the BlackBerries in the email scandal. My point on this is, yes, number one, impeachment, but number two, I think the entire Mueller operation, Mark, is a smokescreen to keep the attention on Donald J. Trump and to keep the attention away from the crimes committed with the Clinton operation and potentially involved in the Obamagate spying scandal as well.
This entire investigation, if it is the official position of the Department of Justice, unchanged to my knowledge, that you cannot indict a sitting president, the idea that you can threaten a sitting president with a subpoena to drag him in front of a grand jury, one of the things they say in the memorandum here is the reason, another key reason, why you cannot constitutionally or should not indict a sitting president is you're now leaving it to somebody who is wholly unattached from the body politic and responsible to nobody but himself to determine the outcome of an executive branch official, the President of the United States, whether he stays or whether he leaves. So if you can't imprison a sitting president, why are you investigating him for crimes?
The question answers itself, actually, because what you have is an illegitimate basis for the investigation. You can't indict a president, so why can you question him by force of a subpoena? You cannot. And in fact, the answer here is what Mueller is doing is he's investigating and using a grand jury subpoena not for a criminal case, which the law says he cannot indict a president, but rather he's investigating to impeach. That is an unconstitutional position for him to be in. He cannot issue a grand jury subpoena for purposes of impeachment. That is an illegitimate and unconstitutional use of the grand jury power. And it seems to me that if he does want to issue a subpoena, the president has an extremely strong constitutional position that that subpoena is illegitimate from the very beginning. Example. Among those 49 or 50 questions are questions like, what were you thinking when you decided to fire Flynn or fire Comey? Why did you fire Comey or Flynn? Did it have anything to do with the Russian investigation? All of those questions intrude on the core functions of the president. They involve executive privilege, Article II privilege to fire anybody in the executive branch. He's asking questions about pardons and possible discussions of pardons while he was president. Those are all covered by executive privilege and by the unfettered pardon power, which is in the Constitution. When you put it all together, you end up with an illegitimate soup. It's an illegitimate pudding. He doesn't have the power to investigate, to impeach. And so Rosenstein's appointment is not only illegitimate, it's a constitutional farce, and it's hurting the country.
What do you think the framers of the Constitution would say about what this does to separation of powers, what it does to the whole construct of our constitutional system? And isn't this why Chuck Schumer and the Democrats, even before the president was sworn in, were demanding a special counsel? Because they knew this is where it would lead?
Yeah, of course, Mark. This was all set up in advance. I mean, the framers established a remedy, a constitutional remedy for malignant behavior from the executive branch, impeachment. It's clearly delineated. Now, clearly that's not good enough for the Democrats right now. So not only are they setting up, as I said before, one path for impeachment, they're also setting up a path to politically bankrupt the president. Now, we all have a political bank account. I ran for office at one point. You know, you build it up with positive credits, good speeches, or whatever it may be. There's also a way to diminish that, negative advertising. This is an ongoing negative advertising campaign against the president. What Joe said is important, though. There is no predicate crime here, Mark. Not only could the Department of Justice have handled well, by the way, an investigation, a counterintelligence investigation into Russian collusion, but the fact that there was no predicate crime to appoint a special counsel to investigate the president says to me this was meant as a political operation as well, to diminish the political capabilities and to basically drain the political bank account of a president. One more thing. I think it was also sent as a message to people joining the Trump administration, to capable people, don't you dare join, or look what will happen to you. We'll be coming after you
next. This is important. Hasn't Mueller already disrupted this administration? Hasn't he already sent a message, as you just point out, to people who want to come into the administration? You might be targeted. He has interrogated, if you will, dozens, scores of people involved in the campaign, the transition, the administration. Hasn't he already done what the memorandum warns against, Joe?
Yes, there's no question that when you look at the entire array of actions from the very beginning, the appointment by Rosenstein of Mueller, where no crime was stated to have been committed, you begin an inexorable process of depriving the president of his ability to govern. And what you have now is we're going on 16 months of stripping away from the president his presidency. It has been taken away by this. And what's fascinating to me is we go back to the beginning. This started out as a brazen plot to exonerate Hillary Clinton through the Obama Justice Department and the FBI, and then, if she lost, to figure out a way to frame Donald Trump and the people around him. What is tragic is that the system has allowed that to occur, and where we are today is the president is being distracted, constitutionally distracted from the performance of duties. North Korea, South Korea, denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, Syria, Iran, everything that he's working on is being disrupted because of this. And for what reason? No good reason.
Here's the last paragraph of the memorandum. In 1973, the Department of Justice concluded that the indictment of criminal prosecution of a sitting president would unduly interfere with the ability of the executive branch to perform its constitutionally assigned duties, and would thus violate the constitutional separation of powers. No court has addressed this question directly, but the judicial precedents that bear on the continuing validity of our constitutional analysis are consistent with both the analytic approach taken and the conclusions reached by the courts. Our view remains, this is the Department of Justice, that a sitting president is constitutionally immune from indictment and criminal prosecution.